Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the annual meeting of East River Housing Corp. Just want to check, Elliot, can I be heard?
Yes, Gary, everything's good.
Okay, so welcome everyone. I believe this is our 67th annual meeting. I'm Gary Altman, the president of the board, and before the first order of business is the, and I'll ask those who are on the panel now, would be the acceptance of the agenda, which was distributed this afternoon in the building on our email list. So there can be a motion from Ellen or Jeff on the acceptance of the agenda, please.
A motion.
Seconded.
Okay, so that carries. And the next is the acceptance of the minutes of our last meeting of December 6th, 2021. I just want to note there was one typo, which our corporation counsel has corrected. The meeting adjourned last year at 9 o'clock and not 8:30. The recording is still online, and it was an hour and a half long meeting. So we just want to note that in the minutes. But other than that, is there a motion to adopt the minutes?
So
Motion.
moved.
Okay, thank you. The first thing I want to do, well, first of all, good evening, fellow cooperators, and welcome to our meeting. The first thing I want to do is to acknowledge my fellow board members. And when our House Committee Chair, Jeff Super, speaks in a little while, he will also acknowledge the members of the House Committee. Our board is led by, besides myself, by our Vice President, Ellen Gentaviso, our Secretary, Dov Goldman, and our Treasurer, Michelle Amar. The other members of our board are Ruvain Bell, John Sotomayor, Steve Barberi, Rachel Ehrenpreis, Richard Kenny, and Diana Wang. You'll notice that one name is not on the list, and sadly, that's our member who passed away this year, and that's Larry Goldman. Larry was first served quite a while on our House Committee, and then, thankfully came over to the board. And he is someone who is truly missed. He was soft-spoken, but not afraid to express his opinion. I greatly treasured his great counsel, his opinions, his volunteerism on the board. I spoke with Larry the night before he passed without expecting him to pass the next day. And our 25-minute conversation was on board business only, other than, how he was doing. So even until his last breath, Larry was a really devoted board member, and sadly, he'll be missed. There are, of course, other cooperators who we've lost over the last year. Many of us, know some neighbors, longtime original cooperators, and each one has their own story and their life, and we're really a part of the fabric of our co-op in many ways. For many years, many of our cooperators, most of the businesses on the Lower East Side were owned by cooperators. It was a shoe store we went to. My father rented tuxedos. This person owned the card store. This person was the butcher. We still have, our pharmacist, and it went on and on. The pickle store, Cozy Corner cooperator. So we went on, and really, this is what has kept our building, just a whole fabric of what has made our neighborhood great for these last, for us, from Amalgamated, we're going on 80 years. And East River, we're now just celebrated our 67th birthday. We were incorporated in November of 1950. The first shovels went in the ground a few years later, so about 70 years ago now, when the underground pipes and other stuff were put in. So these are the cooperators who are still here and past, and new cooperatives coming in to be the future of our cooperative. Me personally, I lost my mom this year, who was an original cooperator from the first day that Hillman opened, and also a very big part of the fabric of our neighborhood, volunteer at Newark, at Gouverneur, at Frederick Ezra, all over, and really known throughout the neighborhood by many people. So, you know, each person is a loss, and again, we treasure them, and we look forward to the new people coming in to also be part of our great neighborhood, great city. Just for a minute of history, you know, we were built by the ILGW, the International Ladies Garment Workers Union, now then became Unite. For many, many years, they held our mortgage. Maybe our first 50, 55 years, Unite held our mortgage through the Amalgamated Bank. And we used to have to write many, many checks. Every month I was signing a couple dozen checks because every little local got some of that mortgage. There was the zipper local, the people who put the zippers on suits. There was the collar local. There was the buttonhole local. Every part of a garment had, and they all owned a tiny piece of our mortgage. Today we're at New York Community Bank at a 2.87 mortgage, but we are union built, and we still are a full union shop. And I think that going on 70 years, we're doing pretty good, and I believe we look great. And this is due to the hard work of a lot of people over the years. Again, some here, some no longer with us, but a dedicated staff, board management, today led by Shuli Wollman, and also the help of many cooperators volunteering in so many ways to keep our neighborhood strong. And I should throw out that besides all those businesses, that also many many of the teachers in our local schools have been not only on our board but cooperators for many years, many years also. Today, after my report, we're going to hear from the House Committee Chair, and then our Vice President, who's the election chair, will introduce the candidates, and our attorney will speak about the counting of the ballots tomorrow. And I'll then answer many questions in my report, which I'm going to begin now. So many people of the questions we got in, some of them will be answered within my report, and some will be answered afterwards. And the meeting will go on until 9 o'clock. The first area I want to touch on is local law 11. That is the scaffolding. We are nearing the end stages. Buildings 3 and 4, no more scaffolding, been totally removed. Building 1, you see the scaffolding has basically been removed. The bridge work has not been removed because we have to wait for the city to give final sign off. We have the sign off, but things go to different levels, and now it goes to what's called the best team, which really review what the other teams have reported. Once that comes, the bridge work there can be removed. Our engineer was in the office today. Sorry, I have to drink it. Okay. From Lawless and Mangione, building 2. We hope the work will be done by early spring, but some of that is weather permitting, and that might be an issue. We are in a 10-year cycle, and I think it should be pointed out that this local law 11 cycle was funded totally by the Board of Management using our mortgage money. We did not go to the cooperators. If we had to issue an assessment on this, there would have been a charge of about $3,500 an apartment for this $5 million plus charge. Sorry, been losing my voice slightly. But I doubt that can happen again. But when we first had to do this local law 11 work, we were really in the heart of COVID when we first had to plan it, and we just felt that it was going to be a very big strain on our cooperators. So in this case, we borrowed the money at that very low rate. Next, to talk about the the resiliency project. Excuse me one sec. No. We've been meeting with the program coordinators for the resiliency project. Part of the park is expected to reopen by Corliss Hook come the summer. The part right by us is going to be a couple of years down the road. There, we see the work that they're doing, the pile driving, the noise, the dust, the dirt. But they're moving along, and at the end of the project, we are going to have what I believe will be the newest park in New York. So there will be some light at the end of the tunnel. Personally, I just hope we all feel comfortable enough to head over there. Every week, the community liaison, Sonia Quinones, comes to our office, drops off the schedule, and I'm sorry. Excuse me. She drops off the schedule. In the recent conversations, we were told that night work is allowed, but because of community concern and complaints, we have not been doing any night work. But the noise we know starts about 7, soon after 7, 5 days a week. The pile driving. I have my wife's feeding me cough drops. So uncomfortable. Shuli and I have been speaking with the project liaison, who's really an excellent person, really on top of the project. And we are in the stages of setting up a meeting with our cooperators. It'll be virtual. Hopefully sometime in January. They have to figure out their schedule to give us the latest updates, schedules, timelines, and then weather permitting, what the schedule will be down the road. And they will, of course, answer all questions from the cooperators. Part of that work is the Delancey Street overpass, which has been torn down, now has to be rebuilt. And I think I've reported before, but the overpass has to be universal grade. Those are the standards, which means it will be longer, somewhat wider, so that there's easy handicap access to it. The 2 parking lot gates in East River are going to be moved at the city expense, become 1 gate, which will be near our compactor. Again, the city will be doing that at some point, and we've been in negotiations with them about allowing them to tap into our electric for that, so they don't have to cut an electric trench down 1 row of the parking lot and create disturbances there. In terms of parking, when this is over, we've had some questions regarding the some kind of computer plan to see if more spots could be created. We had the city do that. We have done that. The most, when they move the gate, that we will gain are 3 spots. When the city did their plan, they had an idea that may have created 1 or 2 more spots, but it would have made all entrances and exits into the parking lot 1 way. So a car would have entered by Mangan Street on Delancey near the compactor, had to drive. Every car would have to drive all the way down to the FDR Drive, swing around, then come back to get to their rows. It didn't feel like it was a safe plan to have a narrow path on the end. So it just didn't work in terms of how they were designing it, because it would make cars be driving 2 blocks down, 2 blocks around to get to their spots. It just seemed that it would be more better chance for an accident. So we're waiting for them to do that work. That will be done in the next stage. And at that point, they will decommission the 2 gates. We will put parking over by those 2 gates. and just take the one gate. Our, as everyone knows, our financials were released last Thursday. We released them as soon as we got them, and we were able to post them much earlier than normal. We're happy to report that this year we showed a profit of over $3 million. Some of that was due to the board and management adopted budget. One was $1 million came from the PPP, which is a one-shot money that we got. The PPP money, the Payroll Protection Act, was because we kept our workers all on duty during COVID. We paid them, so our grant was turned into a grant. The loan was turned into a grant, and that's where that's where we are with that. There were some questions on the on the financials. We had a question about someone saw $6 million in purchases of real and personal property, and could we explain it? And that is the money that we paid for Local Law 11 in this year, about 3.7 of that. And as you remember, we did the pipe repairs across Grand Street. We also had pipe repair in the park by Building 4. And we had some manhole to manhole work done on Grand Street by Building 1. And that's where that money came from. Another question dealt with building and apartment repairs, a number there, which was about $250,000. There was work done on the top of our commercial space at 551 Grand Street, which was $199,000, $199,650. That's where that came from. That has to do with the financials. Wanted to speak about our landscaping, a couple of questions there. The board in recent years, I want to go back to the financials, I'm sorry. What we have been doing is we have been dropping the estimate on what we think the flip tax will be. For years, we had flip tax revenue, some years of $4 million, $5 million, $3 million. It fluctuated every year. We feel this is not money, this is great when it comes in, but it's not money that we should be relying on at all time. Our budget has to be assuming that we don't have a large amount of flip tax revenue. So actually, well, last year we estimated 2.4, and we used to estimate over $4 million. This year we put in $2.2 million, and we're on target to surpass that again, and that helped us achieve the surplus this year. But in terms of the landscaping, we've been planting more perennials, fewer annuals. We put in annuals to beautify and add the color, but we're also looking at plants that we don't have to replace every year, that give off nice color, nice greenery. This year, we lost 2 trees this year by Building 4. One just died, age, but one was by, I'm told, due to the lanternflies, actually killed a tree. That was an expense to remove it. We'll try and plant something in its place, but one of those trees was 70 years old, so be very hard to replace. In terms of a question regarding leaf blowing and could we switch from gas leaf blowers to battery leaf blowers, the answer is the amount of large trees that we have, our gardening company says no, because that will double, they will have to double the cost of what we pay them, because a battery operated leaf blower does not have the power for the amount of leaves that we have. Last week alone, I believe they took out 250 bags, and that was just last week. There were still leaves on the tree. The week before, they took out hundreds. It's just We just don't have the capability of using that. And if we have to pay twice the cost, then that noise, even if it's lower, will be there twice as long, because that means they have to bring in more men. So, we'll always do whatever we can, but we're not going to add expenses for that. Security, very critical, important issue throughout our whole city. We've had a couple of incidents here, not good incidents. We're not happy about those incidents, but I have to say, in both cases, cooperatives let these people in. Things still can happen, still should not have happened. But please, if you see something, say something. If you see someone you don't think is right, don't go in the door. Don't use your key to go in. Walk away, walk to the side. But you have to report something, either to security. If it's really serious, you have to call 911. But generally, our security will all right there. We have, again, for the holiday season at least, increased our security. Shifts are being covered on lunch breaks, on bathroom breaks even. They're supposed to call in. We're utilizing the guard booth in the park between buildings 3 and 4 as much as possible, which has visibility. But please, very important, we're in the process of alarming all the roofs. That will be completed when the local 11 work is done. But actually, everything has been ordered, and I think we've even started paying for the for this project. We've had one letter had something that was not a true statement, so let me just correct it, please. We did not have any mailboxes in our building broken into. Someone said that happened months ago when there were numerous cooperatives had their checks washed. Ultimately, the checks were being stolen at the Knickerbocker post office. We know that because one of our board members actually put one of those checks in at the post office. And once that check was washed, when the police were notified, they knew that it was definitely an inside job. And ultimately, a worker at the Knickerbocker post office on East Broadway was arrested along with a couple of accomplices for this washing of the checks. So nobody was into the boxes in our buildings. Something that happened about 4 weeks ago, many of you may know, but it's a very disturbing incident, and it's been on the news the other day. It's been in the newspapers. Other cases similar. A car pulled up outside building 2 by those green boxes where the mail is brought by the post office, put in those green boxes, and then your mail carrier takes it out and goes to the section they're working on, comes back out, gets the next section. Someone pulled up, was wearing a postal shirt, uniform, had a key hanging from a chain, opened that box. His accomplice opened the back door of the car. They took 3 boxes out of the green box, threw it into the car. He went back, put the empty plastic bins back in the mailbox, locked the door, and drove away. This all happened right after they had done a similar thing to 2 green boxes on Grand Street by Hillman, I think 500 and 530 or 500 and 550. We immediately turned the videos over. This is to the Federal Postal Police, who are in charge of this, and also we're in contact with our liaisons at the NYPD. The NYPD is in our office sometimes numerous days a week. We work together with them. They're always asking us for our cameras because there may have been something that happened a few blocks away, but the suspect may have come by us. We work very, very closely with them. So we are in the process of, again, alarming our roofs. But please, everyone should be carrying their keys. They should not expect the security guard, to be letting you in. Please use your key. If you haven't signed up for the intercom, please go to the office. Fill out the documentation. It could be any phone number that you want. And you could be in Chicago on vacation. And if someone rings the buzzer, it'll ring on your phone. whether you let them in. It's very, very important. But we received a disturbing report from one of our big commercial tenants only yesterday about the amount of shoplifting theft that they had in their store. It was well over $150,000 so far this year. Things like this keep going. We don't want our commercials to go the way of the two Rite Aids, the one here and the one opposite Police Plaza, which closed this year for whatever reason. Speaking of closures, I should mention many people who use it know, but about a month ago, Advantage Care, which was in 570 Grand Street, the doctor's offices, which really didn't have many doctors anymore. It was mostly, they used to have pediatricians, GPs, mostly registered nurses and nurse practitioners, and some testing. They announced that they were closing their office in 2 weeks, closing that location, and they were transferring your appointments to either Brooklyn Heights or Flatiron District. They spent last year $250,000, $350,000, $400,000 to fix up the office, and then decided to close it. They have a lease with us that runs another 7 or 8 years. They are responsible for that rent to us, and we've been in discussions with them. If we should be able to find someone to take that space, and if at the same moment Advantage Care wants to negotiate, then we will negotiate if they want to buy out their lease, which would give us a one-shot influx of money, while the new tenant would be paying a higher rate. There was a question someone wrote about our commercial space. They don't think we're optimizing it, and they think that there are tons and tons of businesses waiting to just jump on any space we have. We have no open commercial space. When Rose's House of Beauty, when Sonia closed up, it took a couple of years to find somebody to rent that space. Some people were interested. When a smoke shop wanted to come in, we were not interested. We're not bringing in businesses that are not good fits and safe fits for our neighborhood. In fact, at the community precinct meeting in October, the captain reported that many of the big robberies that are happening along Delancey and those areas are in smoke shops because it's a cash business. So now we brought in that art gallery, and but every one of our spaces are rented at excellent, very high rates. I think our average commercial is paying $45 to $47 a square foot, which for our neighborhood is a high amount. All our offices are taken. People have asked about capital projects. There are 2 capital projects that are on the horizon. Let's hope they're 10 years away, but we can't say exactly. And those are roofs and elevators. They will be expensive projects. We can only go by knowing recently what Hillman paid for their elevator project, and they have fewer elevators than us and shorter cables. But those will be, our roofs were installed. A roof were fully replaced in 1990 to 91. We did a 25-year John Mansfield no limit guarantee roof, which meant anything goes wrong, we're covered. But obviously at 32 years, that has expired. They're still in good shape, but again, raw materials throughout the world are skyrocketing. Let's hope that, but that would be the first time. We have never done an assessment in East River. Many of the co-ops do it all the time. We have not. And I would say that that some of these expenses, when they come down, will have to be done. There's only a few choices by assessment, but carrying charge increase wouldn't even cover it. So we'll work out a plan, but let's hope that it's down the road as much as possible. When people ask about the elevators, we have letters saying, the elevators, sometimes they break down, the elevators are old. We have, from Century Elevator, we have a mechanic on duty 5 days a week. from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. He is on duty. He actually serves East River and Hillman. After hours, if someone, hope it never happens again, if someone is stuck in an elevator, they must be gotten out within 2 hours. Not that that's comfortable, but 2 hours. If no one's in the elevator, then we have a 4-hour repair schedule. But every year, we have to pass different standards. They call Category 5 and Category 1 standards. Some are 1-year standards, some are 5-year standards on our elevators. And that involves all kinds of tests where they overload the elevator with heavy weights and they check the brakes. And we pass every one of those. We do pass. So given the age, our elevators are in passable condition, and no one's looking forward to an expense that could run, I don't know, $8 million, $10 million, some crazy some crazy number. The only time when you hear an elevator go down for a period of time, once in a while a cable has to be taken out of the elevator, has to be sent to a machine shop where it gets filed down or retrofitted or whatever they calibrate, I should say recalibrated, and then come back. But generally parts are generally available. So those are that. Energy costs. We are on interruptible fuel. We run clean natural gas. Natural gas was very fairly priced until the last few years. It started going up, and earlier this year, like everything else, it started skyrocketing. We try and burn that whenever we can, but whenever Con Edison gets a whim, they can order us to switch to oil. They do that to all the buildings. We must switch over within about 10 hours. That means we have to burn oil. We keep our tanks totally full in oil, but oil recently was over, heating oil, clean number 2, was over $5 a gallon. So we're talking about a big expense. We don't like to switch over. We're mandated to switch over, and if we don't switch over, there are big fines. One issue, our neighborhood is facing, there may be people for it, but most people I know are against it, is congestion pricing. This is a critical issue for our neighborhood. It's an issue that can drive people out of our neighborhood. We live in the zone, and now recently oil has dropped. Actually, from the 5 level, it's now down into the mid 3s. Hopefully, it'll stay that way. But just a matter of 3-4 weeks ago. But you've been reading stories how it happened. I wanted to speak. Congestion pricing. We live in the zone. It means that if any of us want to go to, God forbid, have to go to Sloan Kettering, you want to go to Mount Sinai Hospital, you want to go pick up your daughter who just had a baby at New York Hospital, once we leave the zone, we're going to have to pay something. In the zone, we could drive and block traffic, all we want in the zone. But we are going to be almost in a ghetto here, where we cannot leave. We cannot go to a Costco. We cannot go shopping elsewhere without coming back into the zone. If we wanted to go to Mount Sinai Hospital to come home, we would be in the zone and have to pay that. Yet somebody could drive from California across Route 80, and besides paying the GW Bridge toll, can go there. This is an issue. We hear about this most. We've been active with our elected officials. It's hard to get people to say residents in the zone should not be included. We are not going to Midtown. A car that's going to come off the FDR Drive or Grand Street and go 20 feet to a parking spot, if they were so lucky, will be tagged for this. To go into our parking lots, you will be tagged with this fee. This is an issue that is of great concern. Many people have spoken about that. Local law 97. We received a number of letters from people. I was stopped last week by a cooperator regarding local law 97. these are energy efficiency mandates that are coming in the next couple of years. And I've been stopped and asked, how much are we in compliance? Will we be fined? What is it going to cost? I don't want to pay the fine. All kinds of things. Some of this, I'm sorry to say, is being spread by some neighboring co-ops who might have their own reasons for spreading that. But there are two things that need to be reported on that. One is for local law 9011, 97, and there's also 84, there's 94, there are all these local laws and mandates, is that the city, we are exempt from many of the mandates because our boiler room is considered an industrial, I'm just quoting now, an industrial facility primarily used for the generation of electric or steam. That means that people can be in other buildings, but we produce electric and steam here, so we're exempt. But more importantly, we've received a letter we've been in touch with in recent months from our engineers, Lawless and Mangione. They've been our buildings engineers, or some of the leading architects and engineers in the entire city, which tells us that for the next 13 years, we do not face 1 penny of fines for local law 11, that we are in compliance. There are 2 cycles. First cycle will go through 2030, we are fine. The second cycle goes through 2034. We are end of 34. We are fine on 34 or 35. We are fine on that. After that, we don't know what the city will mandate, but for the next 13 years, we are told that we are in compliance. In fact, it says local laws 87, 97, right? We're in compliance from the years 24 when it takes effect to 29, and from 2030 through 2035, 0 fine. And just so you know, the reputation of Lawless and Mangione, besides being these, some of the major architect engineers, they sit on the advisory board for local law 97. So we're not speaking just of a company saying this. They're on that board. So that's very encouraging, and hopefully it'll put people's minds at ease, and hopefully it's it always remains. But everyone has to understand that the city keeps changing laws all the time. They make it very difficult for buildings in the city. We're not a landlord, we're a co-op, but in effect, we're all an owner here, and they make it very, very difficult for and costly for people to meet these mandates, whether they're green mandates, the energy efficiency mandates. It's just impossible. Just so you know, going back to local law 11, the reason it costs $5 million or more is because the city also has changed the rules over the years of what is required for this in this local law. It used to be a simpler process. They make it more complicated. Just the scaffolding alone that is now required in the change of the law and the change of the rules is an incredible amount of money. Many of us know the cost of wood or whatever. The COVID, I just want to speak about for a second. Look, I mean, we all know they now call it a triple-demic. Cases are rising. Luckily, most cases are mild, but between the flu, this RSV, which affects children, and the COVID, so we just ask cooperate. We don't have mask mandates anymore. I don't see it in the street. People respect other people, respect people if they wear. If you feel that you have anything test positive, God forbid, or anything, please be respectful and just be aware that we want to keep our cooperators safe. We've been very fortunate over the years in our response for the COVID, but who can imagine that in a couple of months we'll be 3 years into this, and it's still ongoing. I want to talk about ClickPay. If those of you who are familiar with it, we're going to be instituting, we're meeting with them every week, a new process where people on ACH and others can pay through this ClickPay, which is a very big program throughout the city and country. It would allow people to pay by the way they're still paying. It'll be seamless if you're on ACH, but people who want to pay by credit card will be able to pay by credit card. Of course, you will pay the service fee imposed by ClickPay if you pay the credit card. Some people want that. ClickPay, you'll be able to go in and see your account. It's a very good program. ClickPay will be of no cost to co-operators unless you go online, as many cases when you call some of your credit card companies or Spectrum, and it'll say, if you want to make a payment on the phone, there's a fee. If you want to make a payment on the phone, whatever fee they may impose, but online, there will be no charge. You're going to see, but it means that people will have to fill out the form, provide their emails to ClickPay to us, and you'll see it'll be a very easy process and additional ways for you to go in and pay. Not much difference from the from the way it's happening now. Please, I urge everyone, if you haven't signed up for our email list, I know there's some cooperators who recently did. Please go into the office, fill out a form. Every email, every communication we send out also goes out that way. And many people are missing out by not being on our email list. The list is given to nobody. This is just kept in the office, and it's a great way of communication. Also, I want to encourage people, if you are eligible for any of the tax benefit programs that are out there, which would be the real estate tax abatement program, which is the STAR program, which is the enhanced STAR if you're low income, which are for veterans, which are for seniors. Please, we don't enroll you. That has to be done with the city, generally through the Department of Finance. There are different months that filing has to take place for the following year. Some of them might be in March, but I can't tell you. If you're approved, you will get the benefit once we are notified by the city. We recently had a very sharp and very elderly, thank God, senior citizen who became eligible for the benefit, but the city never sent any notice to the co-op. Once we saw the letter that she delivered to the office, which said that she was eligible, we kind of immediately started advancing it to her, because we know the money will come in from the city one of these days. But that's how we just wanted to put her mind at ease. But it is your obligation, but don't pass up these benefits. There are requirements. Some of them are income related. Some of them are, of course, it has to be your prime residence. But so please, everyone, I want to name the people in our management office. Our entire management office is made up of 7 people. We have 8. One is retiring after about 25, 30 years soon, but we're led by our manager, Shuli Wollman, our controller, Saul Winnick, our assistant general manager, Elliot Kaplan, our assistant controller, Harry Packer. We have Deneen Cassiano, who is there when people come in with any kind of issue. She is just always there. Michael Wollman, who helps us with so many issues, security, computer related. And we have the hard to replace Schiffer Whites, who's been with us also for about 40 years. And in addition to that, of course, our boiler room has been led by Jimmy Ritchie for quite a few years, but Jimmy's been on staff for 35 years. Bob Westcott, our director of maintenance, has been on staff 35 years. Avi, sweet Avi, has been here also 25 years. And our security supervisor, who works, not directly for us, Cleveland has been here and has really been instrumental in trying to turn around the staff. He's pretty tough with the staff to try and see that we get the best that we can get here on our security force, who are attentive and considerate and courteous to our cooperators. So I want to, of course, thank them all and thank our amazing porter, maintenance, boiler room. Again, some of our security guards have been here for 25 years. Yeah. Jose in building 1, I think, about that time. Now, but our general maintenance and porter staff are also, many of them very special. Our average must be in the 20s. We have guys here 35 years, 38 years, 32 years. A junior guy, in some cases, has been here 15, 17 years. They are all excellent. They serve our cooperator. They keep us moving along. We depend on them, and I think they really need a shout out in terms of all that they do for us every day. So once again, we have a very small management office. People should know that our management office is also sort of a social service agency. People come in all the time. When you have 1,672 apartments, you have 4,000 or 5,000 people living here. People have everyone has a story, and everyone has a problem, and everyone has a good time. But there are people run into, life sometimes puts roadblocks there, and our office always tries to accommodate people with their concerns. It's not always possible, but always it's done with a good heart and open. We're a very fortunate co-op. I don't know what other buildings have had solar out there. We have cooperators who have moved away for family reasons, job reasons, space, and they still come down to do their shifts every week, sometimes a couple of nights a week. They're still loyal to saving the lives of our cooperators. And many of you on this call now know how many people, someone in your family has been saved or serviced, and helped down during Sandy. They did 89 carry downs. Amazing organization. We have, Wilder Field, who still does wheelchairs, walkers, commodes. People have an accident, they think it'll never happen. She is there. Hospital beds. You have stuff. Anyone, please remember, you can always donate it. It's really passing it along to someone else, and it's just an incredible and an incredible service. Before I get to the questions, I just want to say to everyone, look, we were built as a cooperative, and we remain a cooperative. For me, the spirit of cooperation, where one not only looks out for their friends, relatives, and immediate neighbors, but is also respectful, considerate, and kind, is of paramount importance. And that, I would say, includes respect for our bylaws and our rules. That people come into the building, we have these rules, let's live by them. And please, I urge people to, who lives on your floor, your neighbors above and below. They look in on them. We have many elderly. I always want to say that about 3 years ago, before COVID, our NORC would hold a party every year for those cooperators who were a certain age. And we had so many who were over 90 that they made the limit. You had to be, I think, 95 to be honored. 90 wasn't good enough. So living here is good. People are kind. We have so many wonderful neighbors and people, but look after, as I said earlier about those we lost. I just in the last month or so, I've heard a couple of stories from cooperators that were just amazing. People have a life stories, when they served in the service. Or one cooperator, would tell me the story back in the 70s when Studio 54 was it late 70s, the hot disco spot. She was one of those people who got into the clubs, and she would be on the cover of some of the local newspaper, and everyone had, and other people serving in the service in Germany, their interactions with, people soon after the war. So look in on people, let's care for each other. And let's hope for a good 70 more years. I've been serving half my life here on the board. I was born here. Said my parents were original cooperators in Hillman. My wife's parents were original cooperators in East River, and my grandmother came along a little later, but she was an original cooperator in Seward Park. So, and my family has moved all the way from Pitt Street and Suffolk Street to be here, those 60, 70 years ago. It's a beautiful neighborhood. There's so much going for us. Times are a little tough out there now, but New York always comes back. Let's look out for each other. So thank you. Actually, before I do the questions, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, because Jeff is going to give the House Committee report. A bunch of the questions were answered, but I will come back to them afterwards. But thank you all. Speak again soon. Jeff?
Okay, I remembered to unmute. Good evening, all. Gary, thank you. And I just want to start by echoing something that Gary talked about in his talk, which was the passing of Larry Goldman. As Gary mentioned, Larry was on the House Committee. In fact, that's how I met him. He encouraged me to get involved with the House Committee and keeping up with this theme of cooperation and preserving that nature of our community. Larry served on the House Committee for 5 years before he ran for the board, and he would have completed this term that was just expiring, his 4th term. So that's 17 years of service. That's an amazing kind of thing. And of course, Gary has mentioned his service to the community. And the House Committee people, while not the board, also are serving our community. Our House Committee has been here since the start of our co-op. Apparently, when the co-op started, many of the board members were not required to live here. They were part of the unions that Gary mentioned. And that's where the House Committee started. It's a longstanding tradition. 11 people elected by the neighbors, and our primary mission is very simple. It's to focus on quality of life issues. We serve in an advisory capacity to both the board and management. We try to collaborate with them. Larry, after he left the House Committee and joined the board, acted as a board liaison, keeping in touch. During this year, after Larry's passing, Gary stepped in to several meetings. Ellen Gentiliso, and Dove Goldman, and I want to thank them and look forward to working collaboratively in the future. At this point, I do want to acknowledge and thank all the members of the House Committee for their participation and their service to the community. So I'll just name them: Christine Alaferis, Carmen Alvello, Sam Amer, Anthony Brownie, Leo Honig, who was a former chair of the House Committee for many years, Jacqueline Petula, Timothy Rucker, Tom Skibicki, and Christine Vasquez. Our members meet monthly, and members also participate in at least one of the 3 subcommittees by which we organize our activities, and I'll just touch on those briefly. First is what we call our Buildings and Grounds Committee. This is being led by Tom Skibicki, who is also our vice chair. And I want to thank Tom for all his efforts, his proactive vigilance. He has the kind of job that permits him to be around the community, and his sharp eye picks up things, and Gary said this before, if you see something, say something. Tom has been doing that, and with the cooperation of management and getting things addressed. I speak with Julie from time to time so that we can ensure that we're working together. We recently, with one of Julie's people, Edison, did a little walk around, looking at two of our buildings, trying to compare and see if we could discern differences, which we did. The comments that were made to Edison in the course of that review with Tom and myself were followed up on immediately, which was good to see. And any things that still linger, we will follow up on, as is our task. We take a look at all the common grounds, the lobbies, the doors, cleanliness, care of the laundry rooms, basic kinds of things. Last year, we were concerned about the condition of the plants in the lobbies and the lobby hallways. So we did a little bit of nudging, and the board and management agreed, and I'm sure it was on their radar as well. And all those plants have been replaced. And we also have a new service provider who takes care of them, and certainly it's been a major improvement. This committee, this Buildings and Ground Committee, also covers security. We're very fortunate on the House Committee to have two of our members, Carmen Alvello, a retired NYPD detective, and Sam Amer, who has worked with the Department of Homeland Security, who are now reviewing security procedures and measures. And hopefully when they get done, we will present our comments to management and the board for improvement as we might find. Second committee that we have is called Corporate Communications. This is headed by Anthony Brownie, who also serves as our secretary and does the difficult and tiring job of taking our minutes, producing them. Tony also has been responsible for the production of the East River News, our periodic newsletter. Hopefully this year we will increase the production of that. We believe that communicating with the community is very important and something we have to do better at. Also, Gary talked about COVID and the other things that seem to be hitting us now, but hopefully after we come through the winter, perhaps we'll be able to resume some of the social types of activities that we've conducted in the past, including some lobby socials and our annual ice cream event, which usually corresponds with the end of the school year. We'll keep our fingers crossed. Third group is called Community Initiatives, and what that involves is getting involved with the broader community that East River is part of. This is headed by Christine Vasquez. She and some of the other members regularly attend the 7th Precinct Community Council meetings, keeping us apprised of crime situation in the community and what we might do about it. Also, members attend selected Community Board 3 meetings, including the Transportation Committee. They're forever looking at issues such as the traffic on Grand Street in Clinton, also progress of the East Side Resiliency Project, which Gary has talked about, and I'm glad to see that we're going to have a community meeting to get people up to date on what's going on there. One thing I'll mention briefly is that it's technically not part of that project, but a separate project, Pier 42 Upland Renewal, has recently made some progress. So for those people who were used to, particularly during the pandemic, taking a walk in East River Park, now if you go over the Corlears Hook Bridge, the temporary one which leads right to the ferry stop, and you go south to the right, this whole area has been opened up. There is a big AstroTurf soccer field, basketball courts, some tennis courts, which are apparently just open to anybody who wants to use them, and an exercise equipment area. And you can continue your walk right down to Montgomery Street and then swing around. So it's good to see some progress in that year. People always ask us, how can I get involved in the community? Again, stressing that we are a cooperative and it would be great to stay that way and function as such. One way, and I invite people to do this, is to think about joining the House Committee. We have had many members over the years who started, like Larry, on the House Committee and then have moved to a board of directors. So it's a great way to get involved with the community. Again, our focus is quality of life, but it's a very important part of us living together. You can contact us directly. There is a link right on the East River website. Our email address is erhousecommittee@aol.com. Very simple address, erhousecommittee@aol.com. Any communications we get from stockholders, cooperators, are discussed at our meetings and followed up on. We value your ideas. We're just a conduit, so please keep those ideas coming and reach out, and we will be happy to continue that kind of relationship. So I just want to conclude by, again, thanking our members, thanking our board and management. We look forward to continuing our positive collaboration. I want to wish everybody the best as we go into the new year, a happy and especially healthy new year and a joyous holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff, for your presentation. Also, to go back to resiliency, I just want to thank all the cooperators who over the last 6, 7, 8 years, because that's how long the project was before it began, have been involved to try and make this difficult project as safe as possible, as good as possible, and hopefully the end result will be worth it. People do talk about volunteering, but I do have to say that it's now at least 3 years where the House Committee has vacancies that were not filled because not enough people are volunteering. So we do hear that people want to volunteer, and a great place to start is, of course, you can run for the board, but to start on the House Committee, so that even this cycle, there were 5 openings and only 3 people were running for the House Committee, which of course means they'll all be elected and they're welcome. And throughout the year, sometimes Jeff has had people join the House Committee during the year. And I recently, not that long ago, met Sam for the first time and was very, very impressed with her, from her experience with the government and stuff, security wise and stuff, and of course calm. And so it's excellent, but it is a good place to start. Again, as Jeff said, numerous members of our board were on the House Committee before they came to the board, and in fact, there's a chance that another member of the House Committee will be joining the board after the count tomorrow. So, keep it coming, and follow up just on the 7th precinct. I meant to say that before. There's a meeting of the 7th Precinct Community Council tonight. Obviously, we're here, at the meeting. The next one will be Wednesday, January 11th, if that's the Wednesday date. I think it is. There aren't a lot of people who go, sometimes 30. I know, when I'm there, I know our district leader, Lee Berman, goes to the meeting. Christine, I see at the meeting. Sometimes it's hard to see someone with the mask because some people are wearing the mask and it's hard to tell, but Christine is there. It's just great for us to meet other people in our neighborhood from blocks away, from other communities, from other buildings. But it's a great source to learn what is going on in our neighborhood, crime-wise and community policing-wise. So I urge people to try and attend those meetings. They last an hour and a half at most, sometimes less, and often elected officials are there. So thank you for that. Ellen, could you introduce the candidates? I want to call on our Vice President, Ellen Gentaviso, now.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. First, I'd like to thank everyone who attended our Meet the Candidates night and got the great opportunity to listen to the skill set of our candidates for both the board of directors, and we also have excellent candidates for the House Committee. Those running for the board of directors are Gary Altman, Carmen Alvello, Rachel Ehrenpreis, Gary Shaw, and Tom Skibicki, of which 3 openings are available. And our House Committee, Sam Amir, and Anthony Brownie and Cheryl David are the 3 House Committee candidates, and there are 3 slots. Our election was done with directed proxies, and our attorney, who is here, Michael Riley, will be discussing the process in terms of counting those votes. So thanks again.
Okay, good evening, everyone. This is
Thank you, Michael.
Michael Riley from Norris McLaughlin. We've been your counsel for many years. This will be our 3rd year counting and participating in a ballot-only election. We're happy to report that as of 5 p.m. today, quorum has been reached by a considerable number. So tomorrow at 10 a.m., I will be conducting the count as I have in the last 2 years with Pamela Muschler from my office. We will be counting in our office and with a video link to the candidates. And we hope to have that process wrapped up early afternoon. And the results of the election will be distributed as soon as we have certified the election. We sort of have the system down pat now, so I think it's been a great thing to do, participating virtually for everyone, and also handling the voting, this ballot method. Everyone, I think the shareholders are used to it, and it's worked out pretty well over the last few years. So I want to thank all the shareholders who participated and submitted their ballots. There was a great response this year. And, congratulations and best luck to all those who are participating, and, we'll notify the community tomorrow of the results. So,
Thank you, Michael.
you're welcome.
Also, want to thank all the candidates who have run and who are willing to volunteer their time. We do seek out many times volunteers. Some of the letters talked about volunteers. I'm happy to say that in recent years, in terms of our gardening and some other projects, we've worked with several members of our House Committee who had ideas with that, and things are always welcome with our indoor plants. Jeff mentioned we also worked with some of the cooperators on that. So with that, I want to get to thank everyone and get to questions that were submitted but were not covered already in the earlier presentation. One question asked about renting a spot, quote, renting one, end quote, from a cooperator. Cooperators cannot rent out their spots to someone in the co-op. The co-op has a process where if you want to sublet your spot because you're going away for 2 months to 4 months to Florida, you're away for 7 months, different times. You're somewhere for the summer. People go to Florida for 4 months. You notify the co-op for a very small fee of $25. The co-op will go to the waiting list and offer your spot to the next person on the list. That's the only way that is fair. That the person waiting, they can accept the spot if they have a car, of course, or they can pass it and will go down. That way you save most of the monthly carrying charge, and the next co-operator waiting on the list will get a spot. So we encourage people, save the money, help a fellow cooperator. So please, if you can, do that. Go back to the resiliency, as we mentioned earlier. Once we have a confirmed date, we will give the cooperators as much notice as possible to have this virtual Zoom or Microsoft Team, where I think the city uses that meeting, where questions can be answered regarding our what the resiliency work that is going on. We had a question that asked us, let's see, are there any plans to add, update, or optimize bike storage to increase capacity? And the answer is, I'm told by management, is no. We are optimized. We sometimes do sweeps in there because people think that the room, they get in and they're putting their bikes in there illegally. There are people who might try to double up in one slot with their bike. We charge $15 a month, perhaps. That used to be $5, it's $15 now. But to be honest, I don't think people are going to give up those spots too quick because there's only a limited number of spots. And as we know, there are many more bikes coming into our city, which very importantly brings up the issue of e-bikes. You know, there's been a lot of articles in the papers and on TV about the dangers of e-bikes and their batteries. Batteries have caught on fire. People have been injured. I think even worse. The city has passed a new law, which means that sometime next year, all cooperators will be receiving notices of what is required or what the rules are regarding e-bikes or how they should maintain the batteries or what needs to be done. Those will be done, but please, if you have an e-bike, you know, go online now, find out what the protocols are. It's very important for not only your safety to prevent the fire or an explosion in your apartment, but obviously also your neighbors. Another letter. Some of the letters really have nothing to do with the board, but again, if I can go through them, I will. It was about that on East Broadway between Montgomery and Grand Street became one way, and the person wanted to know when the board was told about this. The board is not told, other than the community board, and we have members who are active in the community board level. The city DOT changes traffic patterns based on safety. They are the experts. They do not come to us for our advice of changing traffic patterns 4 blocks away from our complex. Similar, Jackson Street became no parking in front of the supermarket, and the cars are in the left lane. They go straight and make a left. The buses are in the right lane, so obviously cars cannot be allowed to go right. And I believe that was probably done because they're trying to speed up the bus time schedule, and that's a rather short light, and there were times that the buses could not make it through the light. But again, that is DOT decision. We know that there's problems with parking in our neighborhood. The city has taken away many spots because of the elongated buses, some of the schools in the area, but that we do not get involved in safety. There has been a group of cooperators in our community who did work with, I think, the community board and the city to put in some of those kind of safety zebras. One of them is in front of building 2, just for the safety of pedestrians. There's another small one on the corner of Lewis and Grand Street where that, again, where someone could step off and it's safe, but that is not a board matter of what the city is doing somewhere on East Broadway. Another question has come in about where the money for local law 11 came from. And again, we took it out of the mortgage. We did not burden our cooperators with it this time. The union contract negotiations, we do not negotiate the union contract. The union contract is negotiated by the RAB, the Realty Advisory Board. We are not a member of the Realty Advisory Board. There's no reason to be a member of the Realty Advisory Board because those companies that are, those buildings that are, if there was ever a strike, would be struck. We do something else. We've never been struck at East River, even when there's been short building strikes or longer. We sign a Me Too clause, and that means that whatever the union negotiates, we guarantee that we go along with that. We will pay those wages. We always do. And we prevent any possibility of a strike. So our cooperators just continue to get those services. Question about what can be done to make 100% of co-operators pay by ACH. I almost feel it's almost a rude question. We give choice. Not every co-operator is able to pay by ACH. Some co-operators want to write checks. Some co-operators do it different ways. It's not for us to enforce. That's what living in a cooperative is. It's respect for every person out there. Many of our seniors don't have the ability to do it any other way. They don't want to do it any other way. There are many people who want to walk that check right into the office every month. And that's what they're always going to have the ability to do. So even on new sales, we don't require anything. You know, there were those businesses in the city that stopped taking cash. Now I don't think the city allows it anymore. Businesses, you know, they only want to take charge card. People are allowed to pay in in cash. So we say everyone gets a choice. In terms of how many are on ACH, that I can answer, and it's about 800. So about approximately half of our cooperators are using ACH. Someone asked about, do we have water pumps to ensure water pressure? There's a water pump in every building in the middle section, which would cover that whole building. And we do have the generators outside, which our generators, in the case of a power outage, are expected to provide hallway and staircase lighting. Run those pumps to bring water up to your apartments, and also at times run one elevator, especially if we had to take someone out or down. Co-operator was speaking to me the other day, reminding us all, and those of us who live through it know, I think the hardest part of it is not the lighting. People can use candles, hopefully safely. The hardest part was that loss of water that we had back then from Monday night to Friday night. We were one of the last areas of the city. Thankfully, everybody was okay, but one of the last areas of the city that had the electric restored, which was when our water came back on. Someone asked about the co-op coordinating bulk buying opportunities for co-operators. I have to say, they mentioned smoke detectors. Remember, everybody in East River, other co-ops are charging $99 or some amount. We don't charge a penny for smoke detectors. We want you to be safe. We want your neighbors to be safe. So we will install a smoke detector in your apartment free of charge, whatever the allotment is, whether it's one or two. We will do that, but we are not in the business of purchasing air conditioners in bulk for people, because, you know, we'll buy a Frigidaire 8,000 BTU and people will say, I only want a 10,000 or a 6, and I want a Frederick. And then if we don't sell them, they go out of warranty, because the warranty starts when we buy. And then we'll hear from someone, oh, you're charging $240. I can get it on Amazon for $232, and we're not maintaining. So that is not something. It even included the recommendation that we do house cleaning services. I have no idea what that means, but we're not going to be in a position to say Sam or Shirley are free to clean your house on a certain day, if that's what that meant by house cleaning services. So please, smoke detectors will always take care of you. It's a saying, but people have to purchase what they want when they want. Question came in about why do we charge a $2,000 fee for apartment renovations, and where do those funds go? What should co-operators expect? That $2,000 is a revenue source for the co-op. When someone does renovations, which can last 2 months, can last 6, 7 months, there's a lot of dust, there's a lot of dirt. The elevators need to be cleaned. The elevators need to be padded. There's a lot of extra weight going in the elevators. Sometimes garbage is supposed to be taken outside is in. Other co-ops are charging $1,000 for a water shutdown. We don't charge anything. Remember, when you have a water shutdown, everyone in your line is inconvenienced for that hour, 2 hours, whatever it takes. So there are many things that this goes for, but where does the money go? It goes into the general fund for the benefit of every cooperator. And actually our fee is rather reasonable. There were some questions about, do we know if there was ever a blackout again, or Sandy storm, where our critical care patients were? In the last time, during Sandy, we worked very closely with our NORC. We knew which cooperators were shut-ins, which weren't. It was a little scary at times, because in some cases, they had been removed from their family on day 1, 2, or 3, and we weren't always told. And when the lights went back on, their radio or TV may have been blasting that they were watching when the lights went off, and it was a little scary going in. Thank God everybody had been removed and everybody was safe. But that's another example, please, of neighbors looking after the neighbors. On your floor who might need such assistance. And the person who didn't need assistance 2 years ago and 1 year ago may need it today. We all get older. We all have life affecting changes. We had a question about the electrical fire on October 16th on Grand Street. What was the cause? What was the resolution? That was a Con Ed fire in a substation. It had zero effect on us. A few people did have their lights flickering as the flames came up. Con Edison put it out, came back on. We had our electrician here within minutes. Wilfred was here. And, it was an unfortunate thing, but everything was fine. But that was strictly a Con Edison, a Con Edison issue. We are not, another question, we are not in the business of giving out lists of contractors in the building who do work here and what they do without giving names. That's for you to ascertain. Many a times it's by word of mouth, but we're not in that position to say, here are 4 people, this is what they do and stuff. Because if something happens, again, responsibility. But please talk to your fellow neighbors, your other cooperators. It's well known pretty much who those people are. Another question had to do, some of the questions had to do with a maintenance issue here or there, and those, if once I saw, I took care of when I could. Please, if there's a staircase door in your floor, we check them all the time, but if the staircase doors need to be closed, if you see a door that's not closing, the spring, sometimes they're being held open, sometimes the spring breaks, please let maintenance know. It will be fixed immediately. So please don't rely on someone else to do it. Please do that. We had a question, very basic question of how many number of apartments in our co-op. The number of apartments in our co-op, 1,672, but we have 138 breakthroughs, which drops the number to 1,534. I think is the exact number of apartments that are not breakthroughs. Another question came in. I'm glad I got my voice back. Another question came in about how many maintenance staff did we have when Hillman was part of our co-op? And the answer is we did a breakdown based on our size and based on the union contracts. And there were 54 workers, maintenance and porters. The breakout was that we were responsible for 37 of them, and Hillman was responsible for 17. They didn't agree at first, but they were, the union made it clear that was the number, and those were the numbers that had to be taken given a vacancy here or there. A question came in about, some of you may have noticed that when you enter the Madison Street lot through the gate, there was a little opening there, and we recently closed off that opening. The reason we closed off that opening was that we have the main entrance to building 2 where people walk up the path, the circle kind of, it's not so circle there, but that path. But people were coming, seeing that opening, and thought that this was a shortcut to Cherry Street. So we were finding people on our property who were at the end of the parking lot and couldn't get out. So we closed it off to just say, this is not a walkway. The question is whether we could put a lock on that door. The answer is at this point, no, but 75% of the people in the Madison Street parking lot are beyond the entrance to building 2. So as they come forward, they can walk up that tiny path between the parking lot. It's about a 20-foot path to get onto the main, the main entranceway, and then walk out to Madison Street. For those few cars who are between the entrance and the Madison Street lot, you might have to walk back, but actually when the scaffolding is down, you will be able to, I see it's already a little dirt path, cut through the bushes when they're not the part of the season, when they're not in bloom. So the scaffolding will prevent that, but that was done for a security reason that involved aesthetics of just the look there. I should, before I end, speak a little bit about the Hillman situation. As many of you know, we are in litigation with Hillman. We hope, we pray, these are our family, our friends over there. We hope that we come to resolve this issue. We're sorry we had to get to court, but Hillman's outstanding balance to us that will be negotiated or fought out in court is a little over $1 million. And that involves issues which will be the subject of this litigation, real estate taxes on our boiler room. It involves amounts that they were billing us for the office before we moved to our rent-free office. We did have to spend a decent amount of money to fix up the office, but that'll pay for itself and no more rent. But they were charging us a rate that was way over anything the market we believe would stand. And we believe that they exaggerated the square footage on the office space by at least a third and then added 20% overage, which again, a judge can just order a ruler, an architect to go in, an engineer and measure, because the office that we occupied over there that we shared, everyone should know, can only be used, before I think it was used for either Catholic charities or Protestant services. It only can be used for a community facility. It can't be rented out. These are issues that will be also our workers, our staff who had accrued sick and vacation time that they were entitled to following the policy that's been in effect here for many years. We have not been reimbursed for those workers for their accrued time, and East River should not be solely responsible for that if and when those our employees leave. So we hope that again, they're our friends, our family. We hope that these issues can be resolved, and that in the future we will be again, we're still cordial, of course. We do meet with them when we can to try and work it out. But the key is that is the money owed to East River cooperators, and we're going to do that. It's 9 o'clock, so we're going to close. But in closing, I just want to say two things. One is I want to wish everyone a very happy and healthy New Year, a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, which is starting this week, followed by Christmas, just exactly a week later. We wish everyone a good year, a healthy year, one filled with joy for you, your family. And something I wrote in my report, actually many years ago, was about 20 years ago, I attended a dinner in Washington at the National Press Club, where some of the great co-op leaders who were my mentors from great co-ops around our city were being inducted into the Co-op Hall of Fame. Co-op Hall of Fame didn't just include residential co-ops, it also included all kinds of co-ops. There are farmer co-ops, there are dairy farmer co-ops. One of those people being inducted that night was a 90-year-old dairy farmer from Ohio who had spent his life working together with other small dairy farmers to pool, let's say, their milk into a milk silo, because on his own, he couldn't get much money for this, but together they can get a good price when they can offer a much larger amount. And he spoke movingly that night about his life's work, but he closed with the following statement about people always striving to live and work together. And when he said, and I never forgot it, he said, "I'd rather lose at pinochle than win at solitaire." So with that, I want to thank everyone for, hopefully people know what pinochle is still, I don't know. But with that, I want to end our meeting and thank everybody, and good night and God bless you all.